start by introducing our guest for this evening. We have Gauri Devidayal here. Gauri has donned many hats. She's been, a lawyer, a chartered accountant, and then a restaurateur. So for those of you who didn't know that trajectory, she is a qualified chartered accountant, and she did go to law school, and she has a degree in law as well. She's also managed to set up some of the most marquee restaurant brands in the country. And for those of you familiar with the Condé Nast Awards, the table has been on the Condé Nast Awards for the last 3 years in the top 3 spots out of the top 50 for the last 3 years consecutively. So, Gauri, firstly, congratulations on, this triumphant victory in such a competitive space. It's a very, very difficult industry. So I think firstly, just big shout out to you for doing what you have. And of course, in addition to all these accolades, Gauri is a very dear friend of mine. And I just want to say, to everyone who doesn't know her, she's an absolutely delightful person to know. Very warm, very approachable, and accessible, at the drop of a hat. So Gauri, more than your professional accomplishments, I think just personally, you're just an absolutely wonderful person. So, and I'm just so glad you've stayed that way throughout these years. So thanks for being this warm and generous person. Are you able to hear me, Gauri?
I can. It's a little broken, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, and I can see you better now, actually. Okay. We just got a comment here saying table is one of our favorite restaurants. Okay, great. Good start to the show.
Thank you.
All right. So, Gauri, first question over to you. And since, at Reach IV, we run an education company, my first question is always about the educational journey of our guests. So just sort of flashback to early years, maybe cathedral, what were you like as a kid? And then, sort of law school and the whole trajectory.
God. So yeah, I was in cathedral through and through in Bombay, and finished my 12th grade right up to the 12th grade. Bit of a geek, never into sports or anything like that. And I think I just watched too many law TV series and legal shows, and based on that, I decided that very deep decision. I decided I wanted to read law at university. And then because I couldn't do law at undergrad in the States, which is where I originally thought, like the rest of the Jing Bang, I'd follow there as well. But then when I realized that, I can't read law there, and when I was sort of pretty clear I wanted to read law, I decided to apply to the UK instead. And that's also when I realized that so I figured that the UK was also a better option because the Indian legal system was based on the UK system, and so it made sense, sure. If I ever wanted to come back and practice. And then I realized that they didn't recognize the ISC, but this was back in '99, and right. So I had to do a year of A-level. And so I went to London, went to a grammar school, did a year of A-levels, then went to UCL to read law. And after 3 years of law, so I did some summer internships with law firms. So this was around 2002. And that's when it started getting really hard to actually get work permits. And so a lot of the law firms in the UK were not sponsoring international students. Sure. And so I actually then decided to do an internship. So one of my in my last year of college, of university, I was doing tax law. So I decided to do an internship with PwC. And I know this sounds really geeky, but I loved it. And so I ended up, getting a job with them after graduation. And then I went on to do my CA in the UK.
Wow.
And so I was there for about 5 years with PwC in London and practicing tax. And then I decided I've had enough of the bad weather of London's sort of dreary wet weather, and so I decided to come back to Bombay. And just as well, this was December 2007, just before the big crash of 2008. So it was kind of lucky. And I came here on a 2-year secondment. So it gave me the option to go back if I didn't, want to stay here.
Okay.
And but I did end up staying, obviously. And so I continued my journey as a CA for about 3 years in Bombay, and at some point I met Jay, and we had the harebrained idea of opening a restaurant. And so that's so in 2011, when we opened the table, is when I actually quit my job formally. And
Okay.
Ever since then, I've been a restaurateur.
Okay. Wow. So you came from this very academic base, law, chartered accountancy, tax consulting, and then you forayed into a sector which you had no prior experience in. I'm presuming that you don't come from a family of restaurateurs? No.
No. They tried to talk me out for the best part, and we still went ahead. So
So why? So why food, and why? I mean, you could have pretty much picked up any profession, right? So why the food
I
business?
mean, so I'll be honest. Actually, so Jay had just moved back from San Francisco, and he's not from hospitality either. Jay is my husband, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. And he was really, he just sold his business then, like all guys going through a midlife crisis, decided he wanted to open a restaurant. So I humored him for a while. But then I just thought this would pass. And, then he started like looking for spaces. And because of my legal and financial background, I was just helping him out, with like
Ah,
reviewing documents and helping him set up a company. And, I was like, I still have my day job and this is your little like pet project. So I'm not getting involved. But yeah, I was just helping out. And but then I kind of got like more and more sort of sucked into it and just really enjoyed sort of the idea of creating something new. And at one point, it was getting too much to do both the restaurant and my day job. And which is when I decided, I'd been doing sort of tax consulting for like 9 years now. And I felt like I was pretty sort of, well entrenched into the system. But if I was going to take a year off to like explore something new, that was going to be it. And then I felt pretty confident that, if that didn't work out, I would go back to,
okay. So
my sort of
you sort of had your
tax profession.
you had your insurance policy sort of set out for you. You knew you could always go back.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, I'm a bit of a risk averse person, so I kind of felt like, okay, I've got my sort of, backup plan if this doesn't
Right.
work out. And of course, I'm still running the restaurant today. So, but I have to say that I also feel like I'm one of those people that, after about 9 or 10 years, I feel this itch to like learn something new. And this kind of gave me that opportunity to, it was like the steepest learning curve I've ever had, and I think that, it wasn't like, it seems like it was a different profession, but yes, the industry was different, but my legal and, my professional experience as a CA and in law, whatever I did know, it really helped me, with running this business and getting it off the ground. So, and even till date, like, I feel like I have a huge advantage having a background in finance, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs, especially like
Sure.
setting up their own businesses. That's
Hmm.
one of the biggest, sort of challenges that they face, is like the number crunching part of it. And that came to me kind of quite naturally.
Natural.
So, yeah, so, I feel like, yes, it's a new industry, but we really, like, this was back in 2009 that we started thinking about a restaurant. And, Bombay was a very different scene then. So
Sure.
it was
Bombay was a
definitely
very
like a
different scene 4 months. Bombay was, of course,
yeah,
different 4 months ago. So it was definitely different a
yeah,
couple of years
exactly. There's
ago.
that as well. But yeah, so for sure. And so I think we saw that there was a gap that we felt needed to be filled. Maybe not by us, but it was literally, it was a passion project, and we were like, what the hell, let's do it and see
Ah,
how it goes. It was literally as thought through as that.
okay, awesome. So I'll just pick up a quick question here from Nikita. Nikita is asking, how did the thought of setting up the venture come around? So, like, for anyone who's looking at starting up the restaurant, since you don't come from this sort of legacy business, how do you even sort of conceptualize a restaurant? What are some of the, nitty-gritties of setting up a restaurant?
So, firstly, I mean, I think the biggest inspiration for us was so Jay had just moved back from from San Francisco, and California is really known for its food. And he'd been there 15 years. I just moved back from London, which at that time was not necessarily known for its food, but these are all sort of places where it's food is sort of I mean, people really have made their mark in these cities, and I think there was this big gap in the city. So firstly, identifying a need for what you're about to do is important. And we both, we used to both go out a lot, and we really felt like if we could create a restaurant, what would it look like? And that was really the starting point. It wasn't, there was no sort of manual to look up. There was no one really, to mentor us into this. But having said that, as a result, it was definitely an expensive learning curve. There was a lot of things that I would say like mistakes or things that we maybe would do differently today. But we went in. So I mean, this is another thing that you do have to go in with a decent budget if you, in our case, in the restaurant industry. It's just and that was something that luckily we had that sort of financial backing to do this. But in terms of like how you go about it, I think you have to sort of firstly be clear as to why you're doing this, and that you have to be willing to like give it everything, because it literally like sucked the life out of us, for those first sort of 15 months of setting it up.
Okay,
and
so what I've got, what I'm hearing from you is identify a niche or need in the market, deep pockets, be ready for lots of learnings and experiences.
Yeah.
What else would you say? What else sort of like the basics of setting up a restaurant?
I think, one of the things that people kept trying to sort of talk us, the reasons people tried to talk us out of it was because, so Jay and I were, together, and we were about to get married. Actually, we got married a month before the restaurant opened. And, that's a cluster that we're, a couple working together. And I think we didn't really approach it that way. I think the way we saw it was that there was someone who was, had a great sense of entrepreneurship and business. And then there was me who, had the attention to detail and the ability to execute the vision. And I think that and the fact is that, we both trusted each other 100%, which was really important. So, if you are going into something and you have a partner, it's really important to identify, the right person to get into business with, because it's hugely challenging. You're going to be at loggerheads, and I've seen so many times where, that goes wrong. So I think it's important to, I don't think there's one person necessarily who's able to have, the vision, the sort of be the CFO, the CEO, the CXO and everything, right? You do need to have people. Really important to identify the right people to kind of, go on this venture with. So, building the right team from the get-go is critical.
Okay.
To this, yeah.
Okay, so identify the right partner, and of course, building the right team. Okay, I'll take a question here quickly from Pranuti, who says, when the table had newly opened, what kind of reception did you receive from the customers? So what did the first, couple of months look like? Because I mean, it's one of those restaurants in Bombay that has survived so many years, which is really a novelty in the restaurant space. So, what were the first few months like? What was sort of the behind the table? What was going on behind the table? What was going on behind the scene?
I mean, it was pretty crazy. It was, the thing is, the good thing is that we didn't have a benchmark. So we didn't have anything to compare this to, and we were just kind of going with our gut, literally, from one day to the next. And of course, that meant that, we made mistakes. We had a lot of lessons to learn, along the way. But I think that, it luckily, people did respond to the food. I mean, of course, there was this curiosity, like, what is California inspired cuisine? Like, what does that mean? Everyone only knew like Italian, Chinese, and Indian. And so they were like,
Right.
well, what is this? And what are small plates and large plates? And, I don't want to sit on the community table. I don't want to sit next to strangers. And,
Yeah.
we were doing a lot of new things, which were what we wanted if we went to a restaurant. And so it was a lot of new stuff being thrown at Bombay. But having said that, they were also excited to have a new kid on the block and to have a new restaurant to sort of experience. And I think that while there were sort of screw ups, there was literally Jay and I were there day and night at every single service, and so we were really like watching and learning on the go. And I think we just got better at it over time. And of course, the food, people sort of took to it. And but at the same time, having said that, like the idea of an ingredient driven menu as opposed to a particular cuisine, it did take time for people to kind of figure it out and kind of figure out if they wanted
Okay,
it. But
so
honestly, the
so what
biggest
I'm
thing for
hearing is it's the concept, right? You were sort of dishing out something new for Bombay, and it was that appreciation and that
yeah.
understanding that sort of was the adoption phase for your customer to sort of adapt and adopt to your concept. Okay. I
Yeah.
want to just pick up a quick question here. So that's how it started, and we have someone called Shilpa who's asking, how did you then go ahead and expand? What was that journey like?
So, I mean, it's a great question because I don't think there's any one right way of growing the business. But, everyone, after about a year or two of the table, everyone was like, okay, so, when are you opening table Bandra, or when are you taking it like to another city, or,
Yeah.
and we were very like sort of nervous about just expanding in a rush, just because there was sort of success with this restaurant, because it takes so long to build a brand, and it doesn't happen in a matter of a few months. It takes years, and you can literally kill it in very quickly. And so we were very careful about what we wanted to do next. And a restaurant is a combination of things. It's about the right location. It's, and then, I mean, I've learned this now with our second restaurant, is that when you start with this, when you have this like really high benchmark, it's very interesting to see how everything gets compared to that, right? So you have to be very careful about what you do next. And so in the case of, in our case, we were constantly looking at properties. It's not that we didn't want to expand, but there was just nothing that like, when you saw it, you were like, that's what I want to do. And then we, the property that's now Magazine Street Kitchen, which is a sort of culinary event space, kind of fell into our lap because it was an old warehouse my father was actually trying to sell off. And we were like, wait, real estate is so hard to come by in the city.
Right.
And we were like, we'll figure out something to do with this space. Can you, allow us to use it? And they all again thought we were mad because they were like, who's this property is in an area called Ray Road, which is, I don't blame you if you've never heard of it or been there. But it's in the harbor area in sort of the near Baikala, and it's not really on your way to anything, So everyone was like, why would anybody come there? And yet we felt like that same, for the first time after many years, we felt the same excitement that we felt when we were doing the table, where this was like, okay, like we can have fun with this space. We don't have the burden of rent on our heads, so let's do something like that, like your dream kitchen in a way, or your dream space, because that's what we were planning to do there, kitchen. And we were like, okay, let's just go, have some fun with this. And again, we spent 2 years on that space, which is not like normal. So I think coming back to your question, and then of course this led to many other things. So we launched then our bakery brand, which was essentially, we were always baking our own breads at the restaurant, and we were like, how do we leverage this existing knowledge and, build a business out of that? So we launched a B2B bakery business, which was housed in the kitchen at Mac Street Kitchen, but was a separate brand. So I think our expansion has been, I would say, unconventional for a restaurant group. But the important thing was that at every point it felt like the right thing to do. And, it was again driven by this need to bring something of very superior quality to the city and a new experience, and, do something a little different and not just follow what would have been the easy kind of next step to do, with one restaurant. So I think that's where,
like a conventional business would say, okay, this is, where we are today, and this is where we want to be 5 years from now. And then they sort of chart a 5-year trajectory. But what I'm hearing from you is like, it's been like a 2-year trajectory, and then you plan sort of your next move, and then it's the next spurt, and then it's the next thing. It's not like a 5 or 10-year plan, right? You're not looking at something. It doesn't sound like it's
no, and I think that's definitely been a challenge with us, because the like you said, the conventional thing is to have this 5-year plan, and we've just never been able to get our head around that. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's just the way, it's the way it's kind of panned out for us. And but we really have enjoyed every single project that we've done, throughout. And we've not really gone into this business thinking, okay, we're going to scale up in whatever 5 years, have 20 outlets, and then and then try and raise funds for it or whatever, as in get investors on board, or whatever, cash out. So that's never really been the goal. And so I think that, I'm not saying that that's the right way or the wrong way to do it. It's just that that's kind of how we've approached it so far.
That's your approach. Yeah. And
but I think that what I have seen this with our industry, and I don't say this for all industries necessarily, but F&B industry kind of have to decide whether you want to. I really seen expansion in quality, scaling up in quality kind of go hand in hand. So, it's sometimes, if you really are especially when you're in the premium sector, scaling is not easily done. And, it's something that is probably the flip side to retaining, quality and having a premium product.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know that I've been to Magazine Street Kitchen at least 3 or 4 times, and I can attest to the high quality experience. Can attest to just the impeccable cleanliness of the space, and of course the whole dining experience, etc. So I hear you. So you've gone, in terms of strategy, you've gone for the sort of premium, high quality experience, well knowing that you are compromising then on scale, etc., which is a conscious decision that you've taken. Okay, I'll pick up a quick question here from Niall, who says, do you feel that the Indian consumer who would be willing to spend freely on dining experiences outside India are a lot more price conscious when spending in India? Okay, Niall, thanks for that question.
I do think so. So the same steak that you'll pay sort of whatever, $100 or $150 for in the US, you won't spend, 7,000 rupees in India. I think it's something that you can keep fighting, but I think you have to sort of win your consumer over slowly. It's not something, for example, with the table, we've always, on all our review websites, we always saw food's great, blah, blah, blah. But bear in mind, it's expensive. It wasn't necessarily a criticism, but it was something that was always pointed out. And I think it's just something that, we were very clear that the quality that we were offering came at a certain price. We knew what went behind that quality. And so, we didn't shy away from the fact that it was expensive.
Right.
By normal sort of dining standards, everyone was like, "Oh, these are like 5-star hotel prices. Like, why are you charging this in a standalone
Yeah.
restaurant?" And it didn't have anything to do with 5-star or standalone. For us, we knew, like I said, what our cost base was, and this
So,
is what we needed to charge to make it financially viable. So, I think after a point, if you have confidence in your product, people will pay. But you can't sort of make an ass out of your consumer either and think that you can get away with charging something for a sort
sure.
of mediocre product. And that's when
Sure.
people get pissed off and think that it's not value for money. So I think the important thing is to always try and give people value for money, but not and have confidence in what you're putting forward.
Okay. And okay. And what you're saying, I've seen that manifest, you guys are very quality conscious. Every experience is so well curated at Max Street, especially. So, yes, the price point is high relatively for India, but you're most definitely delivering on that promise. I'll take a quick question here. Guys, while I take this next question, if you guys can name for me some of the celebrities who've dined at the table, I'd love to see how much table trivia we have out here. So I can think of 5 celebrities, but I'm going to let all of you decide and just put down the name in the comment box below if you know of any of the celebrities. Hollywood celebrities, sorry, they have to be outside of India who've dined at the table. And I'll take this next question here from Naam to Suna Hi Hoga. Okay, hi Naam to Suna Hi Hoga. The question is, have you ever had any experiences with difficult or rude customers? Would love to understand how you and your staff deal with them. I'm sure she's had many difficult customers, but let's hear an anecdote or two.
Yeah, I'm not going to sort of name and shame or
Yeah.
sort of, but I think for sure, unfortunately, there is a bit of a sort of, I don't know how to sort of describe it, but there is a bit of a, an issue when it comes to sort of treating like service staff in India differently from when you would go abroad. And I think it's really unfortunate. And there were many times that I recall, and it's gotten much better. I mean, we don't see it happen sort of as much. But like I was saying in the beginning, I was in the restaurant every single night, and a lot of the time people didn't know, I was the sort of one of the proprietors of the business. And when I would see them being rude to team members, I would sort of kind of step in and sort of defend our team, because I think that there's no reason for people to be rude, and it does happen. And I think that often, like, the service team always feels like subservient to our guests, but sometimes I think you can be polite but firm in a way to make the point that you need to, because it's not, yes, customer is always right and things like that, or customer is king, but not at the cost of being just sort of civilized about things. So we have had that sometimes, and even now, once in a while, we have an email or two, or a sort of disgruntled person, and it's just a matter of how you explain to them. And yeah, and we sort of, Jay and I still sometimes deal with customer complaints ourselves, because I think it sort of, when you explain to them, with, and it's not to say that we're not wrong sometimes, but I think it's a matter of how you speak to them. But it's something that you shouldn't necessarily like bow down to every time, just because you don't, and just
Because you're a service
because you
business.
don't want to upset someone. I think it's important to sort of explain the situation, and not be scared of that. But it took me a while, honestly. Like, I remember in the beginning when we opened, we kind of misjudged how long a person would take to finish their meal. And so for the second, the second service, we'd always end up having people waiting for their table. and it would totally freak me out, and I would just run off into the kitchen and hide because I was
You're
like, oh my
embarrassed.
God, they're going to like scream at us now because the
Right.
table's not ready. But I think that, we have some star guys in our team who just, like, no matter how pissed off the guest is, they just kind of win them over. And so, they're meant for hospitality. And, I think that's the thing. I think it's about hospitality. That's the key word really when it comes to restaurants, So
Hmm.
of course you make mistakes, you screw up, and it's really about sort of winning your guests back in spite of that. So yeah.
Okay, I can, I'll speak on behalf of all our viewers
Namrata.
right here. We've all been back over and over to your team, so definitely something about your team that's special. Going to read out a small comment here from Asad Lalji, who says, "Thanks for a wonderful dining experience. We love coming to the table and ordering some of the same dishes. Thank you for bringing a little bit of New York to us here in Mumbai." That's so sweet, Asad. Thank you
Thank
for that
you.
compliment for Gauri. I'll pick up a question here from Sejal Kuvawala, who says, what do you think the way forward is post-COVID? Are you going to have to lower prices? What will your strategy be? And while you're talking about, what maybe post-COVID, let's first talk about while COVID, right? So during this time, I know Mac Street Bread is on. I know that you're doing a lot of workshops, but if you could just talk a little bit about, like, how did it happen? So COVID hit, and then what? So what's happened since March 17th? What's going on now? And what's the plan for the future? Sorry, three questions packed into one, but let's just get the COVID bug out of the way.
Yeah, no. Obviously, these are kind of unprecedented times for all of us. So it's really been about kind of thinking on our feet. So we actually, as the restaurant industry and as our restaurants in particular, we decided to close before the lockdown. And
Okay.
so we didn't realize there was a lockdown coming up, and as everyone else. And but we just saw like numbers declining, and there was a growing concern. Schools had shut, etc. And so we decided that, like, we'll close for 2 weeks and then take stock. And of course, we're still closed. So when we realized then that there was going to be a lockdown, and this was going to go on for a while, the first thing, and of course, then there was a question. The big question was like, what do we say to our team, and how do we kind of, sort of reassure them that either they still have their jobs or that they, would get paid somehow, or, all these things that were obviously on everyone's mind. And, beyond a point, we obviously realized that we can't continue to do all of that unless we resume some form of business. So two of our brands, which are Mac Street Bread Co. and Iktara, which is an Indian delivery brand, Indian food brand. So that, and we launched that just about 3 weeks before lockdown. So those were delivery only anyway. And so we figured, like, is there a way
Okay.
to kind of resume that and, at least, start with that, so that since delivery was allowed, food delivery was allowed. And so we actually resumed our bakery brand first by moving our team into Mag Street Kitchen, which, they were really kind to do and willing to do. So it was a condition for us to start work, was that, the team had to be living on the premises. So
Sure.
we did that as quickly as we could. And we sort of started at a time when not many other brands were doing delivery, and also people were really nervous about food running out, and so they were hoarding up bread and God knows what not. But
Yeah.
it took off really well, and I think it was good that we started when we did, because we also, we acquired a lot of new customers, and so it was actually, like, surprisingly, it did better than actually pre-COVID for us.
The
And
bread part.
and then a few days, yeah, and then a few days later we started Iktara, which is the Indian food brand. Which again, people, I think by that time were getting bored of cooking at home. It was like, food that could be reheated, etc. And I think also, at that time we were really short staffed, so I was also going into the kitchen every day, and
So,
I
so
think
what I'm
people seeing
understanding
that
is
kind of felt a little more reassured.
you made the Magazine Street Kitchen your base. So you sort of combined you sort of centralized the kitchen, and you were doing all the cooking
Yeah.
and delivery out of that
No,
one
so these
kitchen?
two brands
Okay.
anyway operated out of that kitchen. So it wasn't like we
Okay.
were the only thing that we did differently was that every day, which I think was again a big reassuring from us because they felt like, okay, it's all kind of in-house and it's not,
So,
there's less risk and exposure
so,
happening. So,
so the
it
big
was that
move was with
fundamental principle when it comes to hospitality and, sorry?
the big move was just making sure that the staff was all living and working out of that place and not sort of commuting back and forth from their homes. Is that what you're saying?
Sorry, I lost the last word.
The big shift was you had your team live on the premises as
Yeah,
opposed to commuting back and
yeah.
forth. Okay, that was the big change.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I think that's the like coming to sort of also, and then of course we did the same for the table and now Misty, which is our Southeast Asian menu. So, we've got four of our brands doing delivery. It's the same principle. But I think the key thing here was, uh, like, how do we reassure our customers, right? So every detail, from whether it was like double packaging the bags so that, they could discard the outer layer, to like me myself going into the kitchen and, letting them know that, listen, if I'm okay going in, please believe that everything's safe and sanitized. I think that's the key to hospital. Whether you're doing delivery or whether you have people dining in your restaurant, it's how you make people feel comfortable. And
Hmm.
that's the idea, even when, hopefully when we are allowed to reopen, um, it's going to be about how we can reassure people and make them feel comfortable, essentially.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sejal, I hope that answered your question. Gauri, you want to touch a little bit upon your workshops? I know you guys are doing a ton of workshops. I saw the sourdough baking workshop listed somewhere.
Yeah.
So, a little bit about the workshops, how you
Yeah, I mean,
conceptualize them.
you know, it's the same thing. We have Mac Street Kitchen used to be where we hosted our workshops and dinners. Obviously, dinners right now can't happen. But it's been a real time of innovation for us. So, we've started incorporating more and more tech into our life. I mean, I feel like I've had this like crash course in tech in the last 3 months, whether it's for our delivery business or now for our workshops. And so the idea was to take the workshops, which used to happen physically in the kitchen, to an online platform. And it's been great because we've suddenly gone from being a Bombay centric
Yeah,
kitchen to now, like international chefs as well as international audience. So
right.
as with, I'm sure, anything that's gone, digital
Sure.
now. So that's been amazing. We've had like a ton of chefs reach out and say like, hey, I'd love to do a workshop. And, there's no limit now to what we can do, right? So,
Right.
so that's been great. And then, just, I think we also had a catering arm. And obviously, right now caterings, parties and things aren't happening, but we're seeing these like Zoom parties happen. And so
Right.
now we're catering in a different format. So, sending food to like 10 different families who then
Ah,
get on a
wow.
Zoom chat and have the same meal
Oh, okay.
together. So I think it's just about, it's about like thinking differently, to kind of suit the times.
Okay. And obviously that's opened up lots of opportunities um, along the way. Okay, terrific. I'm going to take another question here from Niall, who says, have you had any experiences when dealing with the NRAI? And in your opinion, I think I might have lost you for a second. I see a circle on your face, which is not a good sign for Instagram. Guys, let's just hang in there. Hopefully, her network will come right back. Oh, and for those of you who didn't know the celebrities that have dined at the table, Mike, when U2 was here, okay, Gauri has left, she'll probably join right back. When U2 was here, someone from the band had also visited the table. the Donna Karan and Calvin Klein, and obviously a host of more guests. But these are celebrities who've been in Bombay for like 2 or 3 days, and they have the table on their radar of places to go dine at. So remarkable outreach, remarkable marketing, remarkable PR, and of course, a remarkable food, hospitality, and service. Yeah, I know, right? Yasmin is really remarkable because given the plethora of restaurants around Bombay, for these celebrities to actually go dine at the table is really something. Um, yeah, I know, right? Wow, awesome. Okay, so we're gonna hang in here for another minute or so to see if Gauri makes it back on the show. Um, does anyone have any? Hi, BSI 2019. I don't actually know who you are. Yeah, sounds amazing. Have any of you dined at Magazine Street Kitchen? Has anyone actually been through the Mag Street experience? If not, definitely go visit as soon as they open it up because they sort of bring in these world chefs. Oh, hi Bhagyashree, how are you? They bring in these world chefs and they do a 6 or 7 course curated meal. Of course, again, very new for Bombay, very sort of done, maybe overdone in New York and California, but I think really, what she's tried to do is really bring in these experiences which Bombay and India lacked, and brought them here. Oh, thank you, Utsa. Nice to hear from you. Good, thanks for your compliment. Ayushi Modi, what is the next show you're coming up with? Next show we're coming up with actually is a very dear friend of mine who will be up on Saturday, Chaya Momaya. I mean, most of you know her. Chaya is an image consultant, and she's worked and consulted many individuals as well as many brands. So she's going to be our guest on Saturday. But for any of you watching, if there is a certain industry or a certain person you want us to try and invite on the show, just DM us, and we're going to try our best to bring a guest from the sector that you're looking at. And of course, if any of you know a guest that you think would be appropriate for the show, definitely let me know, and I'd be happy to invite them over. While we're at it, what is your favorite cuisine? Oh my God, that is a tough question. I'm stumped. Tougher than anything I was asked at Harvard, Pranoti. Thanks for asking that question. I'm too conflicted to answer that question. Uh, uh, um, okay, I think we're gonna give it another 60 seconds or so, and then, oh, thank you, Ayushi. Next week will be amazing. And the week after that, actually, we have lined up a flamenco dancer, India's one and only flamenco dancer. She's actually from Bombay, but was studied in Spain, and she's going to talk about flamenco and the different tals and the rhythm and the synchronization of Kathak and flamenco, etc. So we're working really hard to get an exciting lineup of speakers for you guys to keep the lockdown entertaining, and hopefully we're going to do our best at it. So I don't know, guys. I don't think she'll be joining us back. She might have a poor connection. When we did the trial run this afternoon also, she did have a little bit of a network issue. So are you coming up? Any show from the technology background? Yes. Yeah, that's on my mind. Both tech and finance are on my mind. So right after the creative, like the dance is over, I'm going to bring, yes, thanks Yasmin for asking that. I will bring someone from the technology background for sure. It's just, during the lockdown, a lot of people from the creative space are really feeling the crunch of the lockdown because they aren't getting venues to perform. And of course, they're doing a lot of Zoom concerts and stuff, but it's all for free. So, oh, we have Gauri back. Let's try this. And we're waiting for Gauri to come back. And it says on my screen, waiting for Gauri Devidayal. I have added her back to the Insta Live show. Yeah, so as I was saying, a lot of people, from the, hi Rajalakshmi, how are you? A lot of people from the creative space are really feeling the crunch of the lockdown. So, oh, it's okay, Gauri, no problem. Okay. Hey, Gauri, no stress. If you want to give it one more try, I'll cancel this one. And if you could just give it one more try, let's just give it one more attempt, because knowing both you and me, we never give up so easily. So let's give this one more try. If you could just try. Oh, that's so kind of you to offer, Gauri. I will. Gauri is saying, guys, if anyone would like to learn more about her journey, the restaurant space, want some personal advice, feel free to contact her via DM on Insta. Gauri, you want to give it one more try? Let's just see if you can get you back on. Okay, there's another attempt. And it says waiting. And we're connecting.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm surprised we
Wow, there you
lasted
are.
this long.
All right, so you're back. Okay, terrific. We'll just pick up where we left
Can you
off. So
hear
you
me?
were talking to, yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me back?
Sorry.
Can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me?
So I don't know if you heard the last bit I said about the NRAI.
No, we missed the NRAI. Uh, no, we missed that. That was a question.
Okay, do you want me to? Yeah. Do you want me to
Yeah,
go over
I think
that?
so. Yeah, someone from the audience has asked. Nile had asked about that. So if you could just talk a little bit about that. Yes.
Yeah. Should I just explain? Okay. So basically, I did a fantastic job. Okay, I officially lost electricity here. I don't think anyone can see me. Can you even see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you. If you want to just talk about the,
Okay, I'll go for it. We just lost electricity. No, so the NREI has done an absolutely stellar job during the lockdown. I've never seen the industry rally together the way they have together. For this in this situation, and I think it's because literally everyone's in the same boat, and it's just been I'm part of the managing committee for the NREI, and it's just been incredible working with the sort of the main sort of people of our industry like Anurag Kachiyar and Riaz Amlani and Ravan launched this fantastic called Feed the Needy, which at the beginning of April, because there was this clear need to help out people who had just lost their source of income and couldn't even get 2 square meals, and restaurants are in a unique position to use their infrastructure for just that purpose. So it was something that everyone just rallied together very quickly, and in spite of going through whatever sort of turmoil our own businesses were going through, it was a no-brainer. Proud of everyone at not just doing initiatives like this, but really actively lobbying the government to try and help the industry. So I think that they've been doing a stellar job.
okay. I'm assuming the NRAI is the National Restaurateurs Association of India. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Gauri, I'm going to let everyone go. I think the network is not good. Um, just going to end by saying, okay, there you are. You are back. Okay. I'm going to let you go, Gauri, but you've been a very, very generous with your time. And thank you for sharing all these little tidbits and insights. I learned many things about the restauranting business that I did not know. I learned many things about you that I didn't know before either. Thank you guys for all your questions. The questions were terrific. Thanks for keeping Gauri at the edge of the table throughout this conversation. So, Gauri, thanks again. And I will tell people to follow, guys, please follow Gauri on Instagram. All her
No, thank
restaurant
you for
brands have
having
separate
me, and thank you for all
identities.
the questions. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Gauri. You can just exit the Insta. Thank
Yes,
you
and
so
if
much.
anyone has any questions, like please feel free to message me anytime.
That's very kind of you. Okay, thank you.
Glitches.
Say hello to Jay as well. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Okay, guys, we're going to let Gauri go, and I'm going to let you all go as well. Enjoy the rains and have a very good evening. Next Saturday, we'll have Chaya Momaya, and keep your questions ready for the image consultant. You know, she's been around. She's been on the block for many decades, so really comes rich with experience. So I'm going to keep my set of questions ready. You keep yours. Have a fabulous evening, and I'm going to go now and enjoy the rains. So have a good evening, guys. Gonna sign out. Bye bye.